This week on Carlie's Couch, we're going to talk about manifestation. What is it? Do you believe in it? And how can we manifest things in our lives?
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome to the couch. Nice to, I don't know if I'm not seeing you or hearing you, so nice to be heard.
Nice to be heard. Man, what color do you feel like today, Lexi?
I don't know. Navy.
Nice. I kind of feel like a marigold.
I'm waiting for you to, I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, just an interesting.
Why is that?
Just like the vibrancy. It's such a beautiful day in LA. Been enjoying this nice weather, but also, just feeling good, colorful.
Yeah, do you believe or know about like chakras and how they have their specific kind of colors? Do you associate those particular colors with those types of like feelings or the types of ways that those affect you?
I do. I know about them and I know the colors, and we should do an entire episode on chakras, but some of them, yes, and then some of them not so much. So for example, like red and the root chakra, I definitely see that and feel that. Green in the heart chakra, maybe not as much with the emotions and how it feels to me. But I don't know, maybe that's like my association with the heart and like pink and red and love and all that stuff, like in life in general.
No, yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting to think about different ways to describe like how you're feeling or, what's the vibes going on with you, whether that's a color or a sound or, just the words and descriptions themselves. So.
Yeah, and it's, most icebreakers suck and everybody hates to participate in them, but I think it's a cool way to learn more about other people without like prying or being super weird. So I lead a lot of groups.
She said a way to not be super weird by first asking somebody, what color do you feel like? Okay. All right. Because I'm for sure like, oh, it's one of those. I'm out of here.
Yeah, but I think you get to learn some stuff about people.
Yeah, for sure. Today we are talking about manifestation, which in the same vein to me has always kind of been like, all right, like sounds like a lot of fake spiritual people talking about fake spiritual things. And I'm just saying that as that's not exactly like my viewpoints towards manifestation in general, but like that's kind of what's been like my first thoughts about it. When I hear the word manifestation, I think about just people just kind of saying like, okay, we can you can make your future happen for you. Yeah.
And I think it has come to a point in society where it's so commoditized and like such a buzzword that it's almost, I wouldn't say devoid of meaning, but it's lost a lot of what I think the power is actually behind it. And the first thing that comes to mind is very woo-woo and very ethereal, like, oh, you're making stuff happen with your mind, which is kind of actually in essence what it is. But
and I would say it feels like it's less of like commoditized and talked about. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's popular, but that among the types of groups where like I see the word used the most, it's like it feels like it's in a space where you think about folks who are like waving incense around and meditating, and it gives a vibe of like it's all energy and all thoughts and all you thinking about a thing without it really having like a real plan. And again, not saying that that's how everybody views it, but I think in the places where I see it, the words used the most, it kind of comes across that way. Like it's nothing involved but the thinking about a thing or, imagining what you want, etc.
And when it becomes like on TikTok, it's so many stories I see, and maybe this says more about me than I want to share on here. But
yeah, you're just in the audience. That's why.
But I always see like, oh, if you hear this sound, man, it's gonna manifest. Like listen to this sound, and in 3 days this thing is gonna happen. Or record a video to this and play this, or people with angel numbers or all kinds of stuff popping up, and I'm like, I don't really know if that's what manifestation is.
Yeah, but what do you believe about manifestation? Because it's almost like no matter how you cut it, everything that we've said could be a version of that because it's still around visualizing / thinking about it, right? So even if it's like, hey, do this share this thing and something will happen, that's still you like being intent on thinking about a thing happening. You know what I mean? Like that's still you taking time to be like, I am going to get $100 tomorrow, or I'm sharing this because I want this to happen. Which is that not manifestation? Like just saying what you want to happen, or, you know, whether it's a superstitious thing or whether it's, you know, you do it this way, or that way, you know, is it all manifestation, or like, what do you think about it?
I don't think all of that is manifestation. I think maybe all of that is power of thought. I think manifestation is more intentional. I don't think it's like just sharing a sound and like that's the thing. I think manifestation is intentionally focusing your energy towards something, whether it's a feeling or a new job or, you know, whatever, you know, you're trying to quote unquote manifest or bring about into your life. And then go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to wait for you to finish with that. Cool. So you said it's about intention. That's the word. So so then when I hear you say it's about intentionally creating something, so is it not manifestation if for the kid or for the person who's just like, man, I want to be an astronaut or whatever, like, is making that statement, having that thought and desire, that's not manifestation if it's not like intentionally saying like, this is what I'm going to be. Or maybe a better example would be like, even if you just are saying things or doing things, but if it may not have like that extra oomph of intention, is that not manifestation as well?
I think that's where the line gets a little hazy, even for me and somebody who is, I would consider in the incense burning community.
Like saying, like being like, oh, I'll never get this thing. You know, like if we just think about like thoughts, period. Like, yeah, I guess it's easier to think about it with a negative thought, but I think it could be the same with a positive one. But just because that it kind of explains it better when I'm thinking is like, you know, sometimes we do just say a thing or think a thing. Is that manifestation to have a thought?
No, I don't think just having a thought is manifestation. Having a continuous thought is a choice. So for example, if you're like, man, I'm never going to get this thing, and you feel like that every day, that's at a certain choice. Like whether you're like, man, I'm going to choose this thought so I get negative things. Like you're choosing to believe that, therefore your energy is going there. And so then you manifest the thing. So that's what I'm saying. You're choosing it, but it might not be like a conscious choice versus like, oh, I want to, you know, get this promotion at my job. And so you're, you know, thinking about that. And also you're doing actions that accompany that thing to help you manifest like your desire.
So is manifestation what you believe? Like as a step forward, it's not just what you think, but it's what you think and what you believe?
I think.
And I'm not even really asking I'm like you, but I don't know. I guess I'm trying to like define it better. And I don't even know if we have like a real definition for, or who defines that. But when I originally like just think about manifestation, just like on the spot, what I think about it, my first thoughts are that manifestation is trying to like see something or like trying to see a certain result or make a thing happen. And it doesn't even have to be as exact as like, I want $2 million. It might just be, you know, I want to live a successful life or something, whatever it is, right? But to me, I would say it's a manifestation to have been working and thinking toward a thing and it to happen. It's like, oh, I've manifested this, means like I have mentally and physically like come together to like make this thing happen. I think that's what I believe manifestation is.
And I'm glad that you brought up that point because there are two very different things. So the thought and then the actual like physical representation of that thought. Yeah, like, you can think about that
like
forever.
The power of thought and all of that.
But so when I think about it, like I'll use something in my life for.
I almost flashed y'all, sorry. I hope I didn't.
Y'all missed out. We hope not. We're gonna go back and look. It's to be blurred out like little Sims.
Now we're gonna go back.
But I'll think of some stuff that I manifested in my own life. Like, for example, so when I wanted to go to business school, I remember writing in my journal, like, you know, there's like 3 schools that I was thinking about. And one of them was in Barcelona, got into that joint. But then one that I even forgot about that I wrote down was USC. I ended up going to USC for business school. I forgot about it when I was moving out of my apartment that I had lived in during grad school. My journal dropped and all these like little papers fell out like confetti. And I picked it up, and like on the page that I was on, it was me talking about why I wanted to go to USC. And I'm like, oh man, I kind of manifested that because what I wrote down and the reasons I wrote like kind of happened in my life.
But what's the manifestation there?
So the manifestation is I had a thought.
Versus like saying like, oh, this is, I keep touching you today. Versus like, it's serendipity that it happened. You know what I mean? That like, I went back and saw this.
Well, one could argue that serendipity is where like intention and desires and beliefs like meet the desire of the universe, like when your energy is flowing in that certain way. And so I think it's a manifestation because it's like I put that desire out there and I was working towards it, but I let go of like how it was going to manifest. And then I look back and like literally what my journal was describing was what had happened, and I hadn't even thought about that paper in a long time.
So okay, so you're saying you were intentional about like making that list at one point, but you're able to kind of and you the whole time you're manifesting this next step, but in that journey, then you saw the reminders and thoughts and other things to help guide you there.
Yes, and I think another part of manifestation we haven't discussed yet is like it's not you forcing things to happen. Like that's not manifestation. That's like you working towards something. So for example, I graduated from college. Yeah, but that's basically
kind of what I was saying, and also that's what I think about. That's what I think when I see people talk about it. It's like you made a thing happen. That's not what it is.
Well, the difference. So if I want to, I'm gonna use a very physical example. Okay, so I want to graduate from college. I apply to college. I do all my homework. I graduate from college. That's not necessarily a manifestation, but I would say like if you were,
does it have to have an air of like I don't really know how it happened to be a manifestation in your mind?
I would think so a little bit.
Because it's not. I guess like manifesting, like how I was kind of saying into what you said is like, you know what, I really want to be a successful marine biologist. So to go through school, do the work, do the things, be thinking about it, be in positions, whatever, that is you kind of, you might not necessarily, you're controlling your effort towards it. But okay, that's not a manifestation. If it's like, obviously, like I went to school, did the work, got all A's, I graduated. That's not a manifestation versus if you do just kind of maybe sit around and maybe it happens and then it happens?
No, I think that is and this is etymology, but like a manifestation of your hard work. Now, a manifestation of thought is something different to me. So, for example,
a manifestation is something coming to visibility, something coming. So it's manifesting, it's coming.
Yeah, so your hard work definitely led to that. Your dreams, all of that stuff. I'm not taking that part away, but I'm saying more like in the sense of it having something you can't control. So let's say, you were like, man, I want to be this marine biologist and get everything paid for. And then you apply for this scholarship that, whatever, and you get it. But maybe, I don't know, your application was missing one thing or you were lacking something. Like, I don't know if that's the best example, but it's like when things are out of your control. Like I think that's like when things are manifested.
So okay, maybe it's this. Sorry, y'all are like hearing this like what the hell is this? Maybe it's more of this than Carlie, because I'm thinking about like, and we're kind of talking about like manifesting a result, which maybe that can be a thing, but that does come from what you put into it. Maybe it sounds like you're speaking to, when you're thinking about more of the serendipity or like things that are happening, but it worked out in your favor type thing, is about manifesting opportunity. Is there a slight difference there? Like, cause that way it's almost like, I don't super agree or feel like that makes sense to call something a manifestation just because like it's only a manifestation if you thought about it or something and it happened. But I do understand like how you can maybe manifest an opportunity, and maybe you don't explain that as much. Maybe that's like, man, I was in the right spaces, I was studying a thing, and so it caught my eye when I saw something because I had read that. And so that sounds a little bit more like a mix of being open to like seeing the things happen and you kind of being ready, but it's not necessarily always based like on your effort to like see the opportunity or manifest a space where you see something and then make moves or whatever. We might be getting like too in the weeds on it, but yeah, what does manifestation actually mean? Like, if you look it up, what does it actually mean? 14 minutes in, I'm like, damn, can I get the definition?
So the definition of it is an event, action, or object that clearly shows or embodies something, especially a theory or an abstract idea. Thanks for not being that helpful.
Something happening.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, that's the obvious definition. I wonder, so what does manifestation mean spiritually? This says bringing something tangible into your life through attraction and belief. So it is saying like, if you think about it enough, it happening. Maybe whatever happens in the inside of that and how it happens is, I don't know. Maybe it's just up for grabs.
So, okay, another like life example. Some of my friends parking at their houses is like, you know, sometimes a little rough, a little Hunger Games, especially in LA. And so before I'm like, man, I'm gonna get a parking spot right in front, baby. How many times has that happened? A lot. Like whenever I focus my energy, so it's like, oh man, I kind of.
Yeah, but also, how is that? Why is that different from? Why is that manifestation versus because you stay in a positive, abundant mindset, you recognize and pay attention to the times that happens more often?
I mean, I don't know if there's a difference. I don't know if there's a difference, to be honest.
Like, is that manifestation or is that you being just you're in the good space and like appreciating that it happened? Or I don't. Maybe it is. Yeah, I don't know.
But I also see it on the negative side. So whenever I'm really frustrated about like, man, I'm already late. I'm not gonna get parking. All this. Like I've noticed like, you know, kind of where my mindset is and where my energy is. Like things tend to align with that, and that's why I think you can manifest like either positive and negative things. Like, have you ever been focused on a thing and like worried about something's gonna happen, and then all of a sudden it happens?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just a thin line. Like that whole conversation about. Did you make it happen and like, is it your fault because you're thinking like, oh man, you know, I'm not going to get that A. I'm not going to get an A. I'm not going to get an A. And then you don't get it. But I also do understand like in the moment of like you studying, you are kind of telling your brain what to believe in that time, or like your mind, it works very hard to bring to life like what you put into it. But with things you can't control, maybe that getting an A isn't that, because that is like also around your effort. But like with I'm going to get a parking spot versus, oh man, I'm not going to get a spot. Your brain couldn't control if you got it or not. You know what I mean? So like, is that a manifestation if you really don't have anything to do with that? You just happen to put yourself in a better position or a worse position to deal with the reality of whatever was going to be there.
I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think that's a yes and. Like I think the idea behind manifestation, and maybe it'll be helpful if we actually talked through like some of the biggest ideas behind manifestation, like the two most popular types. But I think a lot of it is focused on like your thoughts creating your own reality, and like where you put yourself and what you notice very much determines like the quality of your life. We talk about perspective all the time.
Yeah, because like regardless of what happens to you, for sure, that outlook, perspective, the space you're in, definitely you could have a totally different quality of life with the same things happening, most likely, based on how you're approaching it in that way, for sure. So, okay, so we've been like rambling about like what it could be, what it might be, back and forth. There's two different types that you found. If we can go into those, maybe it can help us clear up, or at least we can tighten up like how are we talking about a couple of these things.
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful. So I was kind of first introduced to manifestation. I read The Secret like a really, really long time ago. I forgot the chick's name.
That was definitely like 2010. Excuse me,
11.
like 2009 for me.
Yeah, it's like
I got into that.
Kind of around the same thing for me. Maybe 2011. But then that led to, you know, me going to Tony Robbins and him, you know, talking about changing the quality of your thoughts, and then Marianne Williamson, which led me to the next two people we about to discuss, who I think are huge in the field of manifestation, is Abraham Hicks and Neville Goddard. So the first most popular type of manifestation that we've all heard of is the law of attraction. And that is kind of more in line with Abraham Hicks' theory around the way to like create your life and a life that you want. And it's around this thought that like attracts like. And so that positive thoughts bring positive results, while negative thoughts can bring negative outcomes. So whatever energy you're emitting out into the world is kind of what the universe gives back to you, good or bad.
Do you believe that?
I mean, for the most part, yeah, I think that's pretty true. Like if you look at any interaction, like where you, like if I was about to hang out with a friend, I'm like, man, she always, you know, got something to say to me and always do this. Then I show up with this prickly, you know, energy, then she's going to feel the prickly energy. Like people feel people's energy. So, you know, it's just making sure you're set up in your space the best way that you can be, so that when you enter these spaces, you know, you can have the best outcome. But this line of thought, this law of attraction line of thought, is designed to help you raise your vibration and help you get into alignment with the feelings that you want to experience. And so by changing your vibration and changing your thoughts and your energy and your feelings, like it puts you more in alignment with the life that you want to live. We talk often about like the ideal version of us, like, you know, what does you know, ideal Carlie or my alter ego, or, you know, who I want to be, like, how would she feel in this situation, and changing your thoughts and mindset and actions to be in alignment with those things, to bring about that energy in your world.
Mm-hmm. I'm over here looking up the arguments against law of attraction, not just to be contrary per se, but I remember watching that and being also like really into it, like, oh, okay, like, yes, like, to feel better, come from gratitude, to imagine and visualize the life that I want makes me feel better. And when you're feeling kind of better, like, these things do kind of move in a way that seems like it lines up for you. But I remember like being like really into it and being like, okay, cool. But at some point, I don't remember how or what, I did start to hear certain arguments against it / additions to the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And then, so I'm trying to look up real quick just so I can see a couple of things that people have said. And some of it is like, for example, like how we said about control, like, does that mean, okay, you can't express when you feel bad or hurt, right? And we've, in a few of the previous episodes recent to this one, we've talked about how you may stifle like yourself because, like, oh, I shouldn't feel bad about this, or even if you're hurt or sad, you're quick to be like, okay, but, you know, it's gonna be a good day tomorrow, or growing up and feeling like, all right, let's stay positive, and how that can kind of be toxic at times, right? Like, that doesn't, like, yes, you're gonna have negative thoughts sometimes. What you're gonna attract according to that is like, okay, I have to cut this part of me off, or I have to not be in this space. I think that was one of the big things about it. And then I think a lot of stuff around just the fact, like, okay, you really just don't control everything. You don't control your destiny to a certain point. And I think it kind of can give us like a false sense when we're talking about manifestation and the law of attraction that, like, everything is your fault or / because of you. And it's not quite all that. I'm not scrolling enough to find like really what some more kind of things to this are. Oh, I think I'm on something else actually now. But yeah, there's just a few things that's like, okay, it's not just that, but if you want to be broad enough to say like it's helpful to have a positive attitude and to think about the things that you want and where you want to be in that light, then sure, I guess that makes sense.
Well, I think the concerns with manifestation and law of attraction and your thoughts create your reality, like, there are valid concerns, and a lot of psychologists worry that people who live with anxiety and depression, you know, it can be dangerous, you know, if you think like, oh man, I put myself in this position, or even to go so far as, you know, people who have cancer, man, I did this to myself. And, you know, it can be very blaming. I think the thought about law of attraction that I still ring to be true is like, it's not just about feeling good. It's or about trying to use your thoughts to create your world and taking responsibility about everything, but living your life in a way, knowing that you can't control everything, but still choosing to process and feel good and heal in a way that works for you and that is going towards your highest goal. Like, anytime you do try to raise your vibration, which means healing and dealing with the difficult stuff, it's not toxic positivity. It's, you know, understanding where you are and where you want to be, and then choosing, you know, to process and get there. So I don't think the actual law of attraction that it's inherently problematic, but I think when you take it as black and white, it can be, because then that would assume, and I've seen this argument, it's like, okay, well, so slaves, they all manifested that? And it's like, no, you can't control the world. Like, you can't control what other people do. The only thing you really can control is like your perspective and how you look at it and how you want to process those things.
Yeah, it's kind of slippery.
Yeah,
and I don't know why we're talking about this today.
Well, it's great. I think it's important, though. I think it's important to put some context into this word that you don't really see people defining. Everybody just understands it as this woo-woo thing. But I do think that our energy and the things we choose to focus on and how we choose to shape our vibration do really much, you know, have ripple effects into the rest of our lives. So that's the law of attraction. And then there's the law of assumption, which is more of a Neville Goddard like way of looking at manifestation. And it is, instead of like just thinking like, man, I'm going to think about this, it's like you already feel like something has happened. And you hear this a lot about visualization exercises, like Matthew McConaughey talks about it in his book about, waking up every morning and feeling like he had already, have all of his goals accomplished. And what is that feeling whenever you do accomplish that? Mm-hmm. Tony Robbins talks about it. Like, if you look at a lot of really successful people, they all talk about visualization and how assuming the feeling of the thing accomplished is really the difference in like what helped them get to where they are. Mm-hmm. And that to change anything in your life, you have to change your beliefs and assumptions that you hold about it, which, I mean, that sounds pretty universally true. But knowing that your imagination really creates your reality, and the more dedicated you are to creating these visualizations and vividly feeling and imagining yourself in these experiences, the more likely you are to produce them. And then if you're reading any Neville Goddard or listening to any of him, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. He has a lot of like seemingly crazy, quote unquote, air quote, stories about how things just happen. And I think that those can be true too. Like, I know there have been times when, I've thought about things or felt them, and then for no explainable reason, they happened in my life, like getting money or, someone popping up just in time to help me do the thing that I needed to do, or, whatever's going on. And so I don't know the line between manifestation and like serendipity or synchronicity, but I do think there is something to the power of like feeling and visualizing.
Yeah, I would fall more into the camp of the law of assumption, I think, in general, more than law of attraction as just laid out. The law of assumption also makes me think of a few folks, of like a Joe Dispenza, that talks about how do you really change from the inside out. I think about people like Kyle Cease, who talks about how kind of what I associate with the law of attraction also, and kind of talking about what you want and what you need is still keeping yourself at a separate space from it, as opposed to change really coming when you are in position and like just doing the thing. And so to feel how it feels in the space is almost more of a putting yourself in position than to think about what you aren't yet or like where you're going. So I think about kind of Kyle Cease and some of the things he talks about in that space as well. And the law of assumption makes more sense in my life with my examples of wanting to be more of a morning person and wanting to see things change with work or professional life, even within relationships, etc. Because it's, who do I need to be, or how does this feel like being, this person who runs this company, and then it just, I don't, it's kind of hard to explain, but like, it just kind of starts to click of, but like, I do these things. Like, I get up early because I have these things that need to get done, or I communicate differently because I'm somebody who is more open or whatever. And in assuming that space is slowly actually starts to, from the inside, become who you are. So I have way more examples of that, and how things have changed, or like how they really actually changed. Because a lot of the things you want, but like, it's like one day it just all of a sudden you're kind of doing it and you're realizing that, oh, I just have to do it, but I have to understand like being in that space as opposed to like outside looking in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see both. And I think for anybody listening, like it's worth looking into both. Like I said, I think they both are important, and they both have their own place when it comes to manifesting. But when you talk about law of assumption and that's how you've seen change in your life, like, are there any ways, like when you're thinking of manifesting something new or of becoming, this idealized version of Lex, like, what are some steps you've taken to help you actually like realize those things?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I can think about it easier than somebody's like, what have you manifested? I don't, obviously, because of how all over the place we're talking about that. It's like, I don't know, what are you talking about? But let's say you want to change yourself, or you want to change something, or you want to see something happen. What do you do? And I understand it. I seek to understand it. I seek to learn it. I seek to see other people's experiences and gain what that means to be in that space, or what that means to have it. And then I would reflect on like, what are those actions mean? Like, what type of person does that? So whether it's creating kind of a persona of sorts, or being clear on like, what what do I need or want to be in order for that thing to be like, that would be a part of my life. And then it's kind of the matter of being aware and then just making those decisions day to day around as if you're that person or around those decisions. I don't know. It's kind of just the same thing I just said, I think. I don't know if I could be more detailed about that, but yeah, it's just kind of getting clear on what does it mean to be in that space.
Yeah, like, so, to be a morning person, how does that feel? What do they do? Like, kind of breaking down, like, those steps to do that?
Maybe. Like, yeah, so I need to change what time I go to bed. Or, okay, in the morning, like, what am I excited to, how can I make myself excited in the morning? What does that look like? And then over time, I kind of become excited about particular routines that I have. And also, well, is there purpose to waking up? Like, I'm not waking up maybe because I don't have purpose. I don't have any meetings, or like no pressing thing. So, yeah, the person who might need to wake up is because they have to be somewhere, have to be talking to somebody by 8 a.m. or 7 or whatever it might be. Or the person who wakes up early and has purpose in their life and things to do has things to do. So maybe I have to be at the gym at 6 or, like just like you, if I don't have things to do, if I don't feel like I have that purpose or need to be doing it, then I'm not. But then that kind of shifts when you recognize like how to add a little bit more meaning to that.
And I think meaning is a really important thing, like understanding your why. Because if anytime you try to make any change, or even
like wake up early for what?
For what? For why?
Just to feel more productive is really like I never felt like I'm not being productive. Like I felt bad waking up later in the day because it seemed like this isn't what somebody who does what I'm trying to do would be doing. I'm not being productive, and so you just have to start being productive.
Yeah, and just kind of doing it. I think, so understanding your why is important no matter what you're working towards or what you want to manifest, quote unquote, in your life. But I think maybe it's more important to think about like less woo-woo manifestation and maybe just more about the power of your mind. Because I think your perspective, and I feel like have been talking about this often, it is so important. And no matter how great things are in your life or how not great they are, like really how you're feeling and the choices that you're making, kind of shape that reality. And so all of that to say, I have no answers about manifestation. I do believe in it and that there is so much power in, the emotions that we choose, our vibration, our daily choices, to either keep us in alignment with our highest selves and our goals and God and the universe, if you believe in those things or not. But
yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I mean, the process for manifestation, if we really had to go back and like break it down to like 1, 2, 3, or like things you can actually kind of be doing for that to be considered like I'm manifesting something, is like having a desire, knowing what the thing is that you want. B, because now I'm thinking of really like even breaking it down further, what I was saying earlier is like learning about it. Like I really, even if it's something like, dang, how can I be a better listener? Like things like that I think about all the time, or when something happens or whatever. Or how can I be a better, manage my team or whatever, right? Like whatever you want to happen, you are doing the work to learn about that. You're reading stuff that sparks things. I'm usually writing. So, kind of writing out what you want, like how you were asking me earlier, are there things that I've written down in my past planners or journals where then I can go back and be like, oh, that happened. But I think that's part of the process, part of like putting it in your mind and making a decision that this is something that you want to learn about or want to do. So like really writing things down, also being still around it, being still, not even just saying like, I'm gonna be still and think about this particular thing, but being still with yourself, and that it's not really all just like doing an effort. It is some time of kind of letting that marinate in your mind or giving yourself some free mind space to let it see where it goes. And maybe it figures something out for you. And then it is in your practice of what do the habits need to look like? What does, like now sometimes I'll sit with my friends and I'll literally say like, hey, I'm about to try to practice to listen. Or like the other day, Kyle called me out and was like, man, do you listen to listen? Or you just, because it seems like you're always ready. As soon as I'm done with my sentence, like, be like, yeah, and like start talking. Like you already knew you just wanted to say something. I was like, dang, you're right. I do that. I know I do that. So, all right, for the rest of the time, I'm going to try to like chill and really listen. And so I had to like consciously try to do it. but I do see progress over time from like trying to practice and do it. So I may be manifesting being a better communicator, a better listener, because I may be in a next relationship or in a situation or something where that person might be like, wow, you're a great listener. As opposed to like, you know, the person who people from your past or your friends who've known you, like, you know, once you're already like a bad this or whatever, like you're just that. And like, I may never get that credit to be like, oh, you've grown in this or you're whatever. It's always like, hey, you're not a good listener, man. Or, you know, but like to somebody fresh, it might be like, oh, you're a good listener or you communicate so well. You're so open. And then I have to believe that for myself because sometimes I'm like, my therapist has done this with me before. She's like, actually, you're not that bad with, you know, communicating with certain things. I'm like, yeah, I actually kind of feel like that now. Like now when I talk to you, I'm like, yo, I'm not that bad, but I know I have been. And I know why people would say what they say, but like, I'm actually doing a lot better with this nowadays. And so sometimes it also is like you kind of allowing yourself to fill into that new space and like accept it and, you know, continue to practice and do the things. I don't know if I'm getting off the topic of manifestation, but it's really like a process of you becoming. Like it's less about the doing and more about the becoming, which I think kind of is what connects back to us thinking about it as more of like your thoughts and mindset and all of that, as opposed to you worked your way through, okay, cool, like there's consequences to your actions, but what are the consequences of you changing the way you approach things or how you think about things, etc. That still has tangible results.
I think that's a beautiful way to look at the process, and that is the point. Manifestation is less about doing and more about becoming. The only thing I would add to that, I think that's a great list, and you know how to manifest is to do those things every day that put you at your highest vibration possible. So sometimes that is sleeping in. Sometimes that is making sure you get up and finish all your things. Sometimes that's taking a walk and smelling the roses. But it's important to put yourself in the best possible position to keep, you know, in alignment with whatever you're working towards or manifesting or thinking about. And it's easier whenever as Abraham Hicks would say, your cork is floating in a water than fighting against what's going on. It's learning to go with the flow, but making sure you're, you know, prioritizing your joy and yourself.
Yeah, so hit us, let us know what your thoughts are on manifestation. If this changed how you think about it, maybe you were kind of also one of those folks who's like, man, that's just some woo-woo stuff. Like people just use that as an excuse of like, oh, you didn't manifest it enough, or, you know, you can just think about it and it happens. Or maybe you already do have a process, it works for you, and you appreciate this power of manifestation. So happy to hear from you in the comments on the YouTube, on the website, on Twitter, Instagram, etc. Let us know your thoughts about manifestation.
Yep. And then this week's question of the week. Lex, what would happen to the world, society, your life if the internet went down indefinitely?
If the internet went down indefinitely, it would for sure impact my business because I wouldn't have one in the same way. Imagine that it's not even just about like social media, but there's literally nowhere to go see anything in front of you outside of what is program on radio and TV, I guess. So there is no need for content's sake to spread from person to person. I would be upset or sad, like in my personal or just as a person, because imagine now you're kind of going back to you just are talking to other people, hearing a very limited type of information from just who's around you and from what's told to you, which the internet can be too, but at least you can explore the different opinions. So you'd really have to work a little harder to learn, to understand, and to study. But also, I guess that takes us back to like books and
encyclopedias.
Yeah, stuff like that. But again, you still won't have as much access to different things, or, you know, also it wouldn't be as current. Like it wouldn't be like breaking news. That could be a very refreshing thing, though, to a degree, to not live in a society where everything is based off of like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and like always using that as kind of like your infotainment. Maybe the news would kind of change because it's not necessarily about kind of those types of things and sensationalized things. And we wouldn't have like a first row seat to like everybody's life. Maybe you could would be more focused on kind of you and your immediate community. That was a lot of things, but those are things that I could think of.
That's a big thing. But I thought this question was cool because I feel like our generation is kind of the last one to have not had the internet like back in the day when we were younger. Because I didn't get it until...
Yeah, like
grade.
As a small kid.
Yeah, like as a small kid, you know. So my first thought was, you know, hopefully it will go back to being more community centered. But I'm also real sad because I love Googling things and looking things up. I would be like, man, like losing that attachment to, you know, being able to explore and research things at the drop of a dime would be very impactful for my life. You can't really carry around encyclopedias like you can a phone. So that would be interesting, but hopefully society would, you know, be a little bit more community facing and caring like I imagine it was back in the day.
No, I don't think so. I just think it's easy to romanticize a smaller community. Like if you are going to be more tight knit, but with that is also the same amount, I think, probably of like backstabbing, talking behind your back, doing this, doing that, like, but at a smaller level, as opposed to like I could say something online and somebody in like Afghanistan could be like, man, fuck you. Like, it's like, damn. At least it's just my neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it just makes the circle smaller.
Same thing,
it
different
could
circle?
be a good or bad. Huh?
That's the same thing, different circle?
Yeah. 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 Because I think about it. Life's always going to be some crazy stuff. But there would be the pros and cons, but definitely we would be in disarray for like a while. Like things would be weird and they would be bad, I think, for a while. And then it's like maybe it just gets figured out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they tend to, but we wouldn't be able to
sweep
sweep
the internet
it
just
the
went down. Imagine the first thing you're doing is like, what happened? Like, how do you, you know what I'm saying? Like,
how do you figure out what's
I can't
going
figure
on?
out what happened. Like, I can't Google what happened. Like, you're gonna have to get like some kind of broadcast or something, and then it's just what they tell you. So off top, you're like, damn, I don't know what's going on, you know?
Back to radios and fireside
chats.
chats.
You got to get that newspaper. Read all about it. I don't know what happened to my internet.
That'll be the headline.
Right.
What
Try to call Spectrum. Everything just shut down. Like, all right. I don't want to see no bill next month either.
But how can you call Spectrum? You ain't even got the number.
Sure don't. Exactly. Yeah, like, that's a good question. When you really break it down, it's like, I don't know how to get nobody number. I don't know how to figure nothing out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just walk up the street to the library.
Smartphones ain't smart no more.
Yeah.
So yeah, hit us. Let us know what you think about this question of the week, and I hope y'all have a beautiful week.
Ciao.